Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Like a Dog podcast, hosted by Andreia and Millie Travis. In this podcast, we discuss how to build the best relationship with your dog. From rescues to reactivity, we'll cover it all. All right, welcome back to Think Like a Dog podcast. And we're here with Connor today, and we're going to talk about fostering. So this is episode 11, and we're going to go all into fostering and, things that you can do, tips for you as a foster. So Connor just finished fostering Sue for the best chance program, and there's a lot that you guys learned together.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed. We did day camp. We were doing leash work, place work, crate work, all of our coping mechanisms we do, and teaching our clients and whatnot, and really just focusing on setting her up for success in hopefully forever home.
Yeah. So with the Best Chance program, if you guys did not listen into the previous episodes where we talked about it, is where we pull the dog from a shelter and they spend 30 days with a mirror image canine trainer, usually Connor.
Usually me.
And they learn all there is to know, the structure, the basic structure they need to go home and, have their best chance at their forever home. So our goal with this is to really set them up for success and give them that basic structure they need. So, they start off with, in a good way at their forever home, and there's, very little that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's our goal with this. So I fostered before too, and it's a big learning experience because every dog is different, and you play such a big role in that dog's life at that moment because you're really, you're going to set them up for success or failure at that moment, although fostering, many people don't think too much about it, and it's an amazing thing to do because you are taking that dog out of a very hectic environment and giving them a chance to decompress. But then when you bring them home, it's not just about love and cuddles. Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to the last episode I was on of unearned affection over leadership. And, I was just telling Millie about how some of my roommates are like, hey, why are you not loving this dog? Which, it's a very general kind of perspective that people are like, you need to give this dog everything and kind of, give them more freedom and whatever it may be. But really setting them up for success to be able to handle stress in their new home, be able to take direction in their new home, whether it be from a single person home or an entire family with 2 dogs home. Yeah.
It sounds like your roommates need to come spend a day with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's going to be their punishment. But,
definitely.
I mean, it's funny because they said that to you, and I said to you, how much affection are you giving her? Because the not the problem, but really the only issue we have with Sue is she's a Velcro dog. And Connor had her for a week before she came to stay with me?
Yeah, about a week.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd seen her and kind of interacting with Connor, and she was Velcro to him. And I was looking at Connor, I'm like, what is he doing with her? Because, this is Connor's really first dog that he's responsible for. So I absolutely, in the back of my mind, was like, okay, he's overthinking this. What's going on? He's giving too much affection. He's just too excited. And then Sue came to stay with me for literally 4 days. And I did not, it was all work. She got to play with my other dog, but she was Velcro to me. Velcro. So sometimes it has less to do with the amount of affection, and it can just be an attribute of the dog, their willingness to kind of glue on to somebody. But we take fostering really seriously. It's you have a chance to make or break this dog's life. This dog's future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and can you imagine if you guys were like all over Sue and letting her sleep with you, and she would have been like, it would be a failure because now, for example, we're going to meet up with a potential adopter and she has 2 other dogs and kids, and like putting a needy dog that needs and craves all of this attention in a home would be really hard because not many people have the ability to be with a dog all day. Yeah. So it's just giving her that leadership and direction that even proves the point that that's also a big reward for a dog, is giving them leadership and
It
direction.
makes her glue even more,
Yeah.
because now she's kind of, she's wanting it even more. So it absolutely is a reward. But you said the main point of basically this episode is how you spend your time with that foster dog either sets them up to have more homes, like an easier ability to find a home, or less of an ability to find a home. And that's what I feel like a lot of fosters miss, is they try to spend that time that they spend with their foster dog to give a ton of love. Like what Connor said the last episode that he was on, we give a ton of love, and then we forget, okay, well, maybe the next home isn't going to be able to meet these same expectations that I am doing with my dog right now. Maybe they'll have kids, maybe their dogs sleep in the crate, maybe, whatever it may be. So your goal as a foster owner should be setting them up for whatever home they'll potentially go into, whatever home it is.
Just going back kind of a little bit is, with the affection thing, is the first day we got Sue, we take her to day camp, and we saw how she was with the pack, and she was phenomenal with the pack. It was nothing we taught her, right? We taught her how to follow on a leash, take direction from us first, and then we saw how she responded to the pack, and it was amazing. It was balanced. It was just overall very good, and to load her up with affection after that can cause insecurities, which we've talked about she already kind of has. And if she's more worried, learns that she can be more worried about that than kind of all the other stressors that life kind of throws at us, then that could take away from her ability to socialize with other dogs. And that's really, what our goal is with day camp, is teaching dogs how to socialize healthily. So seeing she already had that skill gave me even more motivation to really set her up for success, so that I know I'm not going backwards in progress, if that makes sense.
With fostering, you are setting up that dog for, like Millie says, success or failure. So your main goal should be to help them transition into a new home. So we go into fostering with really, really good intentions, but most people think, I just need to love this dog, because poor dog, he's been at the shelter, he's suffering, he hasn't had any love, he's been stuck in a crate and he was abandoned. It's like there's so many reasons to just shower this dog with love and attention, but then we don't think about the result of that love and attention given at the wrong time. And we talk about this a lot. It's not about not giving your dog love and affection. It's about giving them that leadership first, because that's what they crave the most. And Sue is a proof of that. Like, when have you ever allowed Sue to just be a big baby and lay on your couch? Like the first day we found her, she went in the crate. And then the next few days, I saw her become more and more attached to me in a way where she was looking for me, for information. Like she wanted me to show her what to do. And not once did we cuddle her, and she still looks at me. Like today she saw me, she recognized me, she was happy to see me. And she's obviously very attached to you, but that's just because she has been getting all this information. And if we had just taken that wrong turn with Sue, it would be so hard to find her a home right now. Because right now we're open to all kinds of adopters. Like she can go to a home with cats. She can go to a
literally
home
nothing, no home that she can't go into. And that's, having worked with other rescues and fostering before for other rescues, there's a lot of rescues out there that have dogs in foster homes for years, because not necessarily just because of how the foster homes are working with the dogs or not working with them, but because they take tough cases, don't get me wrong, but then the dog is sitting for years in a foster home, not making any progress whatsoever. In fact, getting more and more used to the routine at that home. So then it's so much harder to find them a home with any other routine. So you can go online and you can look for all of these adoptable dogs that say, can't be with kids, can't be with cats, can't be with male dogs, can't be with female dogs, no men, nervous, like with, they have all of these quirks, but not necessarily. And I'm not saying that we are never going to have a foster dog in our program without any quirks. In fact, that's going to be our goal, is to get dogs with quirks eventually. Sue just sort of came to us, and she came to us kind of perfect. So, but we're going to spend that time with our foster, at least with Connor, and then the foster that she goes into after. working on these quirks, moving forward, not just waiting for the home to, the perfect home to accept this dog that has these quirks. And there's going to be, and Rusty is a perfect example of that. Rusty's a perfect example.
Yeah, when we got Rusty from the shelter, it was obvious that he had really bad anxiety and that he was suffering with that pretty badly. So that's the reason why we took him in. And the first day he came here, his anxiety, and it was clear on the post they shared, he can't be in the crate. He has super severe anxiety of the crate. Well, the shelter staff, they really, we work with them many times and they trust us. So I contacted them. They brought them to us. And when he got here, I told them like, hey, I'm going to have to put him in the crate, but it's fine. I have this crate. He's not going to hurt himself. The impact crates, there is no way for him to rub his face on the wires, to break out. So he'll be fine. And the first day I put him in, he barked, but then he fell asleep. And then now we got to a point with Rusty where he's just improving. He can walk past any dog and not care about it. We just put Sue in a crate in the same room they were in, and Sue was, figuring out where she was. And Rusty, the dog that couldn't even look at another dog when he came to us, he couldn't bear the sight of another dog, was completely ignoring Sue. He had no issue. He didn't care what she was doing, if she was there. He was, I left him loose in that room and she's in the crate. He didn't care about that.
Yeah.
And that was a step forward. Imagine if we had taken a step backwards with Rusty, where would he be? Yeah.
Even if you had done nothing, it would have been taking steps backwards. But I think when you're looking for a dog, right, you can be a person who's like, yeah, I only want one dog. I don't have any other dogs. I don't have any other cats. And that's easier to find than somebody who is okay with not being able to walk their dog past another dog. So fostering your dog, if you have a dog, if you're fostering a dog that doesn't like other dogs, that's one thing. Our goal with Rusty was never to make him love other dogs, but at least now we've got him in a place where he can go to a home where he can easily walk past other dogs on a leash, because that's what you want to do. You want to take your dog on a walk. He can walk past, anybody on a leash and be fine. So his life is now, there's more possibilities for him to find a home. And in that home, he now will have a better quality of life because of how he spent his time during fostering.
And you hit it right on the head with, it's more so of how can they create new relationships, because that's ultimately not your dog. It's not, you're not setting them up to be okay with everything you're doing for the rest of their life. It's setting them up so they can do it with other people and their actual owner, if that makes sense. So just, keeping them on a progressive route and trying to work at it instead of just doing nothing and hoping it works out is kind of our philosophy in general.
And people don't, you already said it, people don't have negative intentions. People don't go out and foster dogs because they have bad intentions. The intentions are always amazing. And I think even if you go out and you foster a dog and you don't have any intentions on working with that dog while you have that dog, that's better than not fostering. It's still better, right? But if you do go out and you get that dog and you don't want that foster to last for years, then you've got to work on all the possible things that any home might have. So whether that's cats, and then that way okay, this dog can't go into a house with cats or kids or other dogs, whatever that may be. Your job is to set that dog up for success by getting as much information about that dog as possible at first. That was kind of how we spent the first week with Sue, is what's going on, right? Where are we? Because even though we walked her in the pack that first day and she was really, really good, that did not mean that the second day that she was around those dogs that there wasn't going to be an issue. It wasn't until she was really with me at my house that I let her and Kemper kind of my dog take it a little bit further with play. But you're spending that time getting that information. And then the next step is working on the things that you feel like can be worked on, right? And the things that are pretty common in other people's households. But it's all about making sure that you're setting that dog up to move on, not to just stay there and get a ton of love, a ton of freedom, because that's not going to be every home that they go into.
And it's hard, right? It's hard to take a dog into your home that is not you're going to be yours forever, right? It's hard to work at something that you're not necessarily going to reap all the benefits for. And as someone who it's kind of my first dog that I've owned, it's definitely given me a little transition into owning dogs. I always tell people, like, when they ask me why I have a dog, and it's because I don't want to set them up for failure, right? I want to set them up for success. I know that I can go into a session for an hour a day and have the right mindset to teach that dog and that owner what I think they need to be taught. And it's the going home after that where I'm like, oh, you kind of have to have this leadership mentality 24 hours out of the day. I'm not sure if I can do that. And Sue's allowed me to see hey, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. You're trying and you're progressing, and that's what dogs want. You know what I mean? That's what is important about fostering. It's not about perfection. And that's a hard thing for me to get through my brain. I'm definitely I want to do it all or not do it at all. So it's definitely been a challenge for me, but I've grown so much in just 2.5 weeks of just saying, hey, chill out, meet the dog where it's at, and go from there and try and set her up for success in her new home.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do is just constantly remind ourselves. I feel like a lot of people, all the fosters that I've gotten in touch with, they want that dog to find a good home so bad. Like they really do. They make Instagram pages for them. They make a tons of posts. Like they really spend time advocating for that dog. And it's, it's all good intentions, but stopping for a minute and figuring out what does this dog have a problem with? Like, what are their issues? What do you have to work towards? And even for me, I mean, nobody's perfect and very few people know where to turn or what to do, but always taking a time to think about what you need to learn and looking more into that. Like, we sponsored a session for a foster from Lifeline that was having issues with a dog that all of a sudden it felt like she was having human reactivity. And they reached out to us and we sponsored a session with Millie. And that was a big learning session for them because she took all that information and started applying it more and more with this dog.
Yeah, she's done 3 sessions now, 1 with Jillian and 2 with me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's awesome. Like once you have a big love for dogs and you want to learn more and more, and when I started working with you guys and I started learning all these different things it's things that you can apply for so many dogs. It's not just that one dog. So you're investing in your education too, like working with the right trainer, even through a video consult. Like we offer that for people that adopt through our foundation. If they're not in state, we do offer to even sponsor 1 video consult for them with you guys. So that way they can at least talk to you about what's going on and get more of an idea of what they need to do for that first week when they have the dog home. So I feel like training sessions with like a good trainer, a good qualified trainer is investing more in your education than anything else, because you're educating yourself on what to do with these dogs as you foster. I love the concept of fostering. I think it's phenomenal. I wish more people would do it and put themselves out there and see how much you could learn from this dog, because my dogs taught me so much, and every dog that I foster, they teach me even more.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no I guess there's no downside besides falling in love with a dog that you then have to say goodbye to.
I cry every time.
Yeah. But I mean, most rescues, and I know what we pay for vet visits, any sort of food, flea and tick, all of that, right? So it's there's no monetary thing that you have to kind of give to this dog. So it is helpful if you're kind of sitting there thinking, okay, might not be ready for the commitment of a dog that I know I'm going to have to commit to for 10 to 12, 15 years, but I do want to help dogs, right? Or I do want a dog in my home. I just don't think I'm ready for the actual commitment of a dog. Fostering is it's a great place to start. I think, like I said, I think the biggest thing though is that if you are thinking about fostering, you bring that dog into your home and thinking about what's my goal here. And I think a lot of people's goal when they bring a foster home is to love this dog and make up for its past, because most of the time when we're fostering a dog, it has some sort of bad history, right? Or at least sad, We don't know Sue's history. We don't really know Rusty's history, but we can bet that they were let down by humans at some point, right? But we're not sitting there treating either of these dogs based on what they've been through, right? Because at this point, they're not they're not in need of rescuing. They're rescued, right? So we treat them how they are right now. And the way that I look at it, okay, what are some rules and boundaries in my house that I can provide my dog my foster dog that will easily set them up to find another home? So I always tell people it's a lot easier to get your dog or a new dog on the couch than it is to get a dog who's used to being on the couch off the couch. So there might be somebody who is a potential home, but they really don't want the dog on the couch, right? And I know we've got people that are that have a lot of strong opinions about having dogs in their space and furniture and all of that. But if you are fostering, I take that really seriously because it's so easy if the new home really wants that dog on the couch. But if that dog is really used to being on the couch, and now that this new home is like, okay, I cannot get this dog off the couch, and they really don't want it there for whatever reason, that's their business, then now you've made it where that dog can find a home less easily. And that's really where I get upset about kind of how fosters spend their time, because now the dog is paying the price, because now this dog is living in limbo because we want to love this dog. We want to make sure that we feel good about the choice that we made, rather than, okay, I know that this dog is not going to stay with me forever. So I need to make sure that it is set up for success and it can find a home as easily as possible.
Yeah.
Lots of people bring a dog home and they don't also know what is the first step they can do. Like once you bring a foster dog into your home, what would you say is, some automatic things that you can do, or some guidance that you can give people that go to the shelter, pick up a dog and bring them home? Would they just immediately crate them? Would you walk them? Like, how would you introduce those first boundaries? What would be the first step?
Yeah, so definitely, like you mentioned earlier in the episode, the first thing we did with Sue when she got here, right, was give her crate time, let her decompress, let her get to a state of mind where she can use her natural processes to take in information around her, and we're not just throwing things at her left and right, one after another, and overwhelming her. So definitely, just like our philosophy in general is trying to, one, create first and nurture that calm, neutral state of mind. Definitely, I think is top priority.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's because now we've gone over what do we do when we bring home a new puppy, and what do we do when we bring home a new dog, and it's the same thing, whether it's a new adult dog, a new puppy, or a foster dog. It's make sure that you offer time for decompression. Make sure that you are offering rules and boundaries. You are not overwhelming this dog. You are not inviting a ton of people over. And you're giving that dog a second to take in the world around them without giving them too much freedom to make them think that the world around them is up to them, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of responsibility to the new dog. I mean, they just walked into a new space. That's a lot.
So once you put them in the crate, you let them chill out there for a second. Then you put them in your routine, right? You let them follow a schedule.
Yeah. And Millie would definitely second this, is pace yourself, right? You want to, we as dog trainers want this dog to be picture perfect and want to teach them everything at once, but definitely slow down with them, because it's a lot coming into a new house, new environment, anywhere. It's going to be a lot for your dog. So taking it slowly and not putting too much pressure on yourself or the dog is really going to set you up for success. So definitely about like exertion of energy. You talked about how people, they'll get a foster and the first thing they do is set up an Instagram, tell you how this dog is picture perfect and how they don't have any flaws, or at least set them up to make the advertising look that way. And it might seem hypocritical because our reels are like, hey, Sue's perfect, but it happened to be that we got a pretty balanced, solid dog first. And when we get more quirky dogs and more unbalanced dogs, we're going to show you, hey, this dog isn't perfect, but look at how far they've come.
It takes time.
And look at the work we've put in just 30 days to get this dog to where they're at, and kind of show it that way and more realistic. I think that sets them up for success in their new home, rather than just saying, hey, come get this dog because it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I've already said it. I can't remember if it was the last episode or the one before with Jillian, where probably my biggest fault as a trainer, maybe as a person, is I'm a pusher, right? So that first day that Sue was at camp, the whole day I was like, okay, I want to do her nails today. And then I would come back and I would be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do her nails today because it's too much. I did her nails that night. I did her nails and I shouldn't have. It was a lot for her. And Connor was like, I can do it at home. Like, I know how to do dog nails, Millie. I'm like, yeah, but I just want to see. And her nails were long. I just couldn't stop myself. Right. But it was a lot for her and she struggled with it that first night. And so then I got it done, which is my biggest fault as a trainer. Like I said, is I just keep going. But then the next time I called Jillian, I'm like, hey, do you mind doing Sue's nails? You should record it though, because she didn't really like it the last time. And she records it and she was like, dude, she didn't move. Like she was fine. She was fine. Like you just probably did it at the wrong time. You did it too soon. It was too much. So yes, pacing yourself is huge. And, back to what you said before about people kind of saying, I think I see two themes. Yes, they say this dog is perfect for them, for the foster, because they live probably around that dog, not they don't necessarily put it in a bunch of different situations. So that dog is perfect in that situation with that person or whatever animals are in that house. We don't necessarily know that, and that's a whole other topic that we should talk about. We don't know that the dog is dog friendly just because it gets along with this dog in this foster home. But I also see on the flip side of that, people saying, okay, this dog has these quirks. So it's basically, instead of saying, okay, we're working on this with the quirks, they're saying, this is the family we need. So the work needs to be done on the humans, on the family side, not on the foster person side, where, this dog I love this dog the way that it is. And of course, any dog that we get that has quirks, we're going to love that dog. But we're also going to be working with that dog to make sure that the world of homes open up for this dog. But yeah, it's either the dog is perfect and is great and has no issues, and then the new adopter is like, wait, this is an issue. And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that,
Yeah.
Or you guys are the ones that don't fit my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with Rusty, I was kind of hesitant at first to share like his, fear of dogs and the reactive side of dogs. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, people are going to see this and it's going to freak them out. But that's where I would say the biggest tip that I can give any foster is be honest with yourself, with your dog, with the world, because that's just going to help them set them up for success. Like with Rusty, he came home, he couldn't see another dog. And I recorded that, I shared that, but then every day he was improving. And then once we started working him off of dogs and giving him more exposure to dogs, and he started figuring out he can just turn away. He can just ignore that dog. Now look where he is. And there's so many people that applaud that. They're so happy to see that he's improving and he's doing better. And Rusty can see Bubbles through the fence and they can have wagging tails and they do totally fine. Like they ignore each other. But it's a process where you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with your foster dog. You have to ask yourself, how can I set him up for success? And what can I share with the world so they know how this dog really is? So you're honest with that person too that's probably interested in adopting. When we brought Bubbles home, we had pictures of him at a previous foster where he was like laying with another dog. They were like taking a nap together, and Bubbles seemed awesome. Like he saw Ozzy at the shelter, they loved on each other, came home, all great. And then we started figuring out that he has that controlling issues where he wants to control everything around him. He wants to control high intensity play. He wants to be the ones that makes all the decisions. So if I let him make too many decisions, then I'm setting him up to be like a ticking bomb. Something's gonna happen. So that foster had all great intentions with Bubbles, but they probably didn't expose him too much to different things where you could figure out what are his quirks? Like, what can we work through with this dog? Because if I was in a wrong place in my life where I didn't have time to look for a trainer or work Bubbles through this, what would be my only option? Keep this dog that I thought was aggressive and would fight my other dogs, or just rehome him and return to the shelter? Most people do that because they're scared or they don't know what to do. So then you think, okay, this is not the right dog for me. Let me bring him back, look for another dog.
But it's not, it's exactly what Connor said. It's not all or nothing, right? So it's not with Rusty, we still are saying he doesn't need to go to a home with another dog. But the goal, I mean, having him be able to walk past other dogs sets him up for 100 new homes rather than a couple homes that, do have another dog that are interested in him. It's easier to find a home if, the dog is able to just walk past another dog. He doesn't need to love every dog. He doesn't need to. It's not making it where, okay, this dog can't find a home unless he likes other dogs and every single other dog. Nobody's asking that of your foster. But there is a difference between my dog doesn't like other dogs and cannot walk past them, and I still need to find a home for them, versus my dog doesn't like other dogs, but I've done the work and they are capable of turning off, turning away, ignoring, and they have healthy coping mechanisms for when they are stressed out or they don't like something. They're not going to just go, bonkers with this thing. That's the goal. It's not all or nothing.
Yeah, and that's it brings me back to something we see all the time with reactivity in general, not just with fosters, is that it creates this kind of bubble for the dog of the world for the dog just shrinks, right? And then that can lead to a whole number of things, which you kind of touched on, of like, hey, in this bubble, this dog is perfect, right? But then as soon as that dog goes into a new home, it's right back to outside of that bubble. And whether it's reactivity, anxiety, whatever it may be, it's right back to square one. So that kind of goes back to the doing nothing and kind of just hoping, dogs will be dogs and everything will work itself out. It's kind of, working backwards.
Well, we see that. How many times have you heard that in a session for people who aren't fostering, but they have a reactive dog or an issue with their dog? They will constantly, I hear this all the time, they're perfect right up until, right? That we have no issues when this is going on, or when everything is okay based on the dog's point of view, then they're perfect. Yeah. So everything is fine, but then you can't guarantee that that's always going to be the situation. In fact, you can guarantee that it's not. That's not always going to be the dog's environment, whether you're fostering or not. But when you are fostering, you need to take that way more seriously, because the entire goal is that won't always be your dog's environment. So your goal is to set them up for as many different environments as possible. And make sure that even if they don't love it, you recognize that. You maybe say, okay, this is not the home for them, because, even though that they have the coping mechanism to deal with, kids running around, they don't love it. And that's not fair.
Yeah, we had a foster dog that we were sponsoring his adoption fee for. And we were doing these adoption events at the game where a dog would go to a baseball game, people would interact, and then they would be able to take him home that day if they get the application done, everything looks good. So this dog, sweetest dog, he came in super playful, super sweet. And that was the first dog we had. And then he got adopted at that game, a wonderful couple. They were so happy. They were like, oh, this is our dog. Our dog just passed. So we were looking, and I feel like this is our lucky dog, because we never thought we would find a dog at a game. So they were ecstatic. They were so, so happy. But then we made the announcement. Everybody was so happy that dog got adopted because he was so cute. But then they brought him home, and he was reactive to their cats. Mm-hmm. So the next day he was back in the shelter because they probably had a scary moment with that, and they were not expecting. Everybody was so excited. That dog just had a really big day. He came home. He went on the couch. They gave him lots of love. He saw the cat. He freaked out. Yeah. It didn't work out. So the fosters that he had was, awesome people. They advocated for this dog every single day. They refostered this dog until he got adopted again to the right home. But they didn't know whether or not he was reactive to cats because they didn't put him in that situation before, so they couldn't know.
Yeah, well, you're not always going to have cats at your disposal, right? Like, and the people who adopted him, putting him on the couch didn't create the cat issue, but that doesn't mean that if you brought him home, you put him in a crate, and maybe you introduced the cat the next day, and after you taught some place work, after you set some rules and boundaries, that at least the reaction or the intensity behind the reaction to the cats would be less and more manageable, and then you could work through it. But this dog, exactly like what you just said, was at a baseball game, which is huge. That's a lot for me as a human, right? Like, you should have seen my face when I went to the soccer game a few months ago, right? I was exhausted at the end of it. Can you imagine from a dog's perspective?
And the fact that the cat was the first time they saw reactivity going to a baseball game, like I want to react at a baseball game. Like if you didn't see a reaction at the baseball game, I talk about the need for decompression.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, and then they're going home with a new human.
Exactly.
Yeah, like somebody they've never met before that day. And so then they go home, and I'm not saying, like I said, that dog could be cat reactive, and it's prey drive, it's instinctual. That's not something that, was created by any human that ever worked with with that dog. But that doesn't mean that the intensity level could not have been lower. And also, let's say if the foster home did have access to maybe walking them through, it doesn't have to be, I have 2 cats, but you took Sue to PetSmart to walk her around and look at like the birds and the fish, and they've got other little small things that can kind of simulate or trigger prey drive if that dog has it, right? Based on what Ozzy has told me about Bubbles and his reaction to fish, I know. Well, Ozzy says he loves fish. Bubbles wants to eat the fish. Let's be honest.
I took him to an aquarium at the aquarium store the other day, and I had him walking around, and the aquariums are really low in the ground, so he was going up to the glass and trying to bite through the glass. I'm like, yeah,
no, but he loves them. He loves them.
He wants to play with them.
But I mean, if I brought Bubbles to my house, I would be way more on edge about, okay, what happens if a cat runs? Because I know from day camp, he's okay with small dogs. He doesn't care, but nobody's running at day camp. Nobody's like just taking cats when they run away. That triggers prey drive. But the point is that in that foster home, there are ways to expose that dog to a bunch of different things. Even if you don't have cats, even if you don't have kids of your own, I've got friends of mine that let me use their kids as bait a lot for how's this
bait.
Yeah, I like to, and I make sure the kids know that they're bait too. But we didn't get a chance to do it with Sue, but she's been around kids at stores, at parks. I mean, and no issues. But that gives you information on what kind of home is going to be best for them. But it doesn't necessarily eliminate it or make it where, you've tested for all these things, but you didn't test for this thing. There's always going to be surprises. Always. Always.
And there's always going to be issues. Like that's,
always.
I think I talked about this last episode, but it's no dog's perfect. You know what I mean? No matter what. And
no human's perfect either. Like we all have our flaws, and I can tell myself every day that I'm going to be the most patient, amazing, loving person. And then the next day I'm like screaming and getting mad at everything. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that's how we are. It's fine. Like we put so much expectations on anything and everything in our lives that, especially as the new year turns around, everybody starts up again. Like this year I'm going to be this, that, the other. And then you don't look at the reality of things. Like it's okay if you don't do what, if you're different than what your goals were for that beginning of the year, what did you do? Like, what can you be proud of yourself for? Just take it easy.
Or what are the steps that you took to work towards those goals? And I think that that's kind of the point of what we're all saying is, yes, whatever dog you bring home, doesn't matter the history of that dog. It doesn't matter what time or what happened in the foster home. It doesn't matter. The dog's going to have issues. But what did you do, one, to set that dog up to make those issues as least with the least amount of intensity around them as possible? What did you do to prevent those issues? And then how did you provide support to that dog through those issues? So I think the problems that we all agree on is not okay is just kind of giving up right at the very beginning. So yes, I mean, it is terrifying if your dog goes after your other dog or your cat, or, growls at your husband or whatever it is. But instead of just being like, this is not the right dog for me, you look at, okay, well, what did I do that maybe didn't prevent this? Did I offer prevention? Did I offer decompression? Did I offer support and guidance and boundaries and ways to opt out of situations? And if I didn't do that, it's not fair for me to say, this is not the right dog for me, because you didn't give that dog another option.
And going back to expectations, just like we talked about bringing home any dog, at first you're going to have an expectation of that. And just like I did with Sue, the end of the first week, Millie could tell I was a little bit frustrated, and it's because I had an expectation of how this was going to go and what I wanted to gain from that. And just like life in general, it's not always how you picture it. And as soon as I was like, hey, you're right, and I took a step back and I looked at it and I was like, I'm putting too much pressure on this dog and I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Me and Sue have both flourished since then. We're both just chill, and she's more of herself. You can tell that she's more calm, confident, and cool in her own skin. And that's what's kind of made it rewarding for me of seeing that, hey, if you relax, your dog's going to relax, and they're going to want to learn just as much as you're going to want to teach. So,
Yeah. And just seeing her today again, of her, the way that she's walking and how she came up to me.
Yeah, she's
and
a
like,
different dog.
She is. Like when she was with me for those first few days, she was so nervous. I couldn't even pet her because she would just like curl up in a ball and like try to run away from me. She was so nervous, but at the same time, she wanted to be close to me. So like she didn't know what she wanted. She didn't know if she wanted me close, because every time I would leave the room, she would start barking, or if she wanted me, far. Like she didn't know what was going on. And now she's just like, she's got it. Like she sees me, she recognized me. She wasn't nervous at all. Like just by seeing me, like she was walking with Connor around the house and she was just following his lead. And I think with fosters, we all go into it with so many good intentions, and fostering, yes, it's just, if you just get a dog and bring them home, and if you just put them in the crate just for a day and then you bring them back, if that day is all you've got, that's amazing. Like even if you can give that dog an hour away from the shelter, that's amazing.
Or go on a walk. Yeah.
Go on a walk. Anything that you can do to take that dog out of that environment for just a little bit so they can decompress, that's awesome. Do that. Just do what you can. But if you really want to go above and beyond, and you want to set all of these dogs up for success, because if the more educated people that we have in the foster world, the more people that really give it their all and set these dogs up for success, the more success stories we're going to have.
Yeah.
So just investing in your education as a foster will make such a difference, because everything that I've learned with you guys, the basic structure is what I can carry out with any other dog that I get. That the crate, the decompression, the boundaries, the body language, the spatial pressure, the lead walk, like that every dog needs that. So if I take that, if I know how to walk a dog in a lead and introduce the loop to them and introduce a muzzle if they need it, and be able to take them out in the yard and let them know what it is to walk next to me instead of trying to go in front of me. If I know all these things, now I'm already setting them up for success. And then I can expose them to more. Then I can expose them to walking out into PetSmart or Petco or whatever, or going to the park. Now I can take them, because now I feel confident with walking them on a leash. They're not pulling me and dragging me across the store. So learning those basic structures that you can apply to every dog, then you can really challenge yourself, and dogs will teach you so much about yourself, each and every dog that you encounter.
You're not just challenging yourself, you're helping that dog. I have never heard of somebody saying, I don't want that dog because it's crate trained, right? Yeah. Or I don't want that dog because it walks beautifully on a leash next to me. Or I don't want that dog because it has to be invited up on the sofa, right? You cannot guarantee that the home that your foster dog is going to go into that wants them on the sofa, wants them in bed, doesn't have kids, doesn't have a male dog or a female dog or cats or a really tall guy in the house, whatever. I mean, I'm going through my brain of all the things that I've seen dogs react to, or doesn't want to take their dog to work with them if they struggle in the car. You can't guarantee anything, but you can guarantee that new home is going to love them. So why are you only offering the one thing to that dog during your fostering that you can guarantee they will get at that next home? You can offer love to your foster dog while offering them all of these different skills and rules and boundaries that will set them up to find those homes better. That's the goal.
And it's not magic, right? Like every time Sue is out of that crate, she's learning something, because dogs are always learning. As many times as we got to say it, that's the truth. And making sure that I was moving her along in her training and making it beneficial time out of the crate is what got us to improve in her behavior. So just know it's not a matter of magic and kind of voodoo stuff. It is intentional work ethic that kind of gets you to a point in your relationship where you want to be.
It's serious business. I mean, don't foster thinking that, oh, I'll just have them for a week because they're super cute and somebody will adopt them. You go into it with the same amount of commitment level, but knowing that that dog might be with you for a little while, depending on the type of dog that you have, the rescue that you're working with. That's another thing. If you're thinking about fostering, vet the rescues you're working with, because there's a lot of rescues that don't offer adoption events or don't offer even help monetarily with veterinary visits or flea and tick or food. There's a lot of fosters that don't offer any resources for training, and that's a big deal because you're getting a dog from a shelter. You don't know what that's going to look like.
And with fostering too, you have to go into it with a rescue mindset. Like, I really love that explanation of rescue mindset. I follow Bunny's Buddies, and she's really big in rescue mindset. And she actually made me think about different things differently in a lot of ways, because she says all the time she goes on these rants because she gets so upset with people that go through her adoption process, and they're just asking more and more. Like, it starts off great. I want this dog. I want to adopt. The application looks great. And then as they speak more and more, then it starts to come off as, well, I can only pick this dog up next month. Well, I can only keep her for these first days. And then it starts to be more about yourself than the dog. Once you rescue a dog, go into it with a rescue mindset that you want to rescue this living being. You want to help them. So put your feelings aside. Put your needs aside. Don't think about your schedule. Don't think about what works for you. Don't think about your friends. What are they?
If those things aren't fluid, don't do it.
Yeah,
If those,
don't do it.
there are plenty of people that don't have a schedule that's not flexible, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it, I mean, don't think about all those things. You're going to have to put those things aside.
Yeah, just put your feelings aside, put your needs aside, and do it with all you've got, and just let that dog, teach you things about yourself that you need to improve, and then help them and guide them into that better, into that road of success where they're going to find a really good home. But you have to start somewhere. Like, if you want to foster, like Millie said, look into rescues in your area that offers these programs where they're giving you all that you need to take this dog home with you and all of the support, and just, see where you are. Even if you can bring a dog home just for a weekend, sometimes there's foster weekends that you can do. You can go to the shelter, take them on a walk. There's lots of things you can do to help dogs decompress. But like I said, educate yourself first. So even that small time frame that you are spending with that dog, it can make a big impact for them.
And it teaches you selflessness, right?
Yeah.
If you don't think that I wanted to sleep in bed with Sue every night, then you're wrong, because I did, and I wanted to love
fired.
her. Yeah, and that's what that's what my heart desired. And even with my roommates kind of like heckling me of like, "Hey, do you even care about this dog?" And I'm like, I'm doing this because I care about this dog. If you don't think that I want to give this dog all the love in the world, then you don't know who I am. So it's definitely a practice of selflessness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, today we talked about a lot with fostering. Just think about yourself as like a halfway house and a mini trainer for that dog, where you're going through this, you're taking them through this process where it's setting them up for success, and you're rehabilitating them. So all that you can do to give this dog confidence in any way, do it. Teach yourself these things. Reach out to trainers, ask questions. There's a lot of free information out there too. There's that you can take. I mean, obviously don't take a YouTube video and just do exactly that, regardless of what they're saying. Look more into it, get more information. And what's cool about, things these days, that you can send questions to trainers. Like Millie always interacts with people online.
Yeah, I'm trying to respond to everybody who's been messaging us on Think Like a Dog podcast.
And Connor too. Yeah, Connor is like always available. I mean, he has his Instagram page where if you comment, he may be able to comment back to you and answer that question if it makes sense and if it's a short answer.
We try our hardest.
Yeah, but I mean, there is lots of resources out there with trainers, with us, Aussie Abby's Foundation. We try to sponsor as many sessions as we can for people that need training and can't afford it. So there is lots of amazing people that you can connect with out there. You just have to look into it. And, you know, with your goal with your foster dog, just keep that goal in mind, that your goal is to help them find a home. And that you need to advocate for this dog, whether they have their imperfections, advocate for those imperfections, help them get through it, but be honest with yourself, you know, be honest with your dog. Don't just put them in the internet world and say, this is a perfect, cuddly, amazing dog. Then you get all these applications for them, and then they figure out these quirks and it doesn't work out. So be honest with that part. And also, you know, teach them boundaries. Like we talked about this episode, it's a lot easier to teach a dog to put a dog into a new home that doesn't jump on the couch automatically, other than a dog that thinks they are entitled to the couch. So nobody will ever say, I don't want this dog because they do all these perfect things. They will not want them because they do all the imperfect things that people don't.
That don't fit in that person's life. You can't guarantee what's going to fit in that person's life. So set them up for success and start with boundaries and then go from there.
Yeah. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about different types of daycares and what you can look for in your area for daycare that makes sense for you. So we're going to be with Connor in that episode too. But thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, and don't forget,
practice makes progress.
Connor, you can say it too. You can say it too.
No, Connor.
The timing. I was just like, if I try it, then it's going to be wrong.
Say it.
Practice makes progress.
Woo! All right. Till next time.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Think Like a Dog Podcast and follow at Mirror Image Canine for training tips. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via email at info@thinklikeadogpodcast.com.